So the landscape in general is changing in terms of monitoring and measurement. There have been large players on the scene for a while that have just kind of gathered lots of data. Nielsen's been around forever, doing all kinds of things on the web. They've acquired BuzzMetrics recently and are kind of making their way. I'd imagine most small publishers, however, won't be able to really take advantage of companies like that because they're quite expensive in the end of the day. However, the fun part is that there are a lot of emerging solutions and a lot of startup companies, thank you very much, it's very kind of you, that are helping to get stuff like this done. Action. Notably, of this list, Sysomos, Radian6, and Brandwatch. Scout and Alterian Biz are also very fine. I've just used those three in particular. They're interesting companies. They all produce different types of results, but basically what they're after is trying to tie together the stream of social data that comes out of the things that you publish and the interactions that people have with your content and your brand and the properties that you are, and put it into a format that allows you to manipulate it pretty easily, draw some conclusions if you can, and integrate it into the rest of the tracking and data monitoring that you're doing. Some of them love to play and create great little visualizations and all that kind of stuff that you can show your friends and go, look at my website, isn't this awesome? You know, they're great. It's really kind of fun to kind of dig down and click through and look at how stuff works when you're kind of going through different places. And from a visualization perspective, that can be really interesting. But in the end of the day, it's just about kind of finding one of the various solutions that are out there that allow you to get a better handle on who's using, who's interacting, and who's sharing the content that you have and the things that you're producing in a more efficient way, so that you can identify what's working, focus on the things that are being successful, and hopefully either bin or do less of the things that aren't. Because we, you know, from when I started, even, you know, not that, like I said, not as a wine blogger, but just as a blogger in about 9.5 years ago, there was nothing like that. You barely had any analytics whatsoever. And so today it's really kind of fun, I think, to understand where people are coming from, how often they're seeing it, where it gets passed along, how it gets picked up, and not just from your own website, but by tracking it along into different places. So essentially, the kind folks at Ignite put together this little kind of funnel, which I think kind of explains it relatively succinctly. So lots of mentions, lots of things that get said about what it is that you're doing. It gets filtered through a monitoring tool. It allows you to then do better keyword targeting. It allows you to eliminate some of the noise or the things that kind of are irrelevant to the conversations that you're focused on. And that allows you then to kind of do some further analysis to refine what it is that you're creating in the end of the day. The last formal piece that I had was something I thought was relatively unique. Has anybody seen the work that Gatorade's done? They worked with IBM and they worked with Edelman, the PR company, and Radian6 to to create more than just monitoring about their brand. They created marketing from it. And as a marketeer or advertiser or whatever you want to call me these days, I found it tremendously interesting. And if you kind of we'll watch a quick video to see how it kind of works. They've made a big deal of it in terms of their kind of monitoring center. It's all very flash and very swish. But the takeaway for me is to think about how can you use the data, the information that you can gather that teaches you about how people are interacting with your content, interacting with your websites, properties, platforms. How can you use that and then turn it back around into something that people can then interact with? How do you take that wealth of knowledge about the business that you're in that's relatively unique, that no one else would really be able to find, and how do you then turn that into something that has that if you turn it back around, that has meaning to the people who are reading it? So is it about trends? Is it about analysis? Is it about stuff in the marketplace? Is it about what people think is really popular? You can do a whole lot of things, and because you're specialists, most of you in niche markets, it means that you have access to information and data that very, very few people have. And when you have that, that brings attention, and that attention generally brings with it popularity, more traffic, et cetera. So, like I said, Radian 6 and Gatorade have gone one step further. I'm not going to try to play it embedded because I don't think it's going to work. So we'll just watch it this way and we'll pray that this all works. And see what they've done. Only in America, right? No, not at all. It's a web. It was just done for the web. It was done for a conference, I think. Actually, they put it together. They've used it as an internal tool. It sits in the middle of their business, and they've kind of bigged up the idea of knowing more about what people are doing with regards to the brand. The one other possibility for entrepreneurs like yourselves to give some thoughts to, if I can get this back to work, come on, yes, would be that you all have fantastic relationships, or I would imagine some really good, strong relationships with wine brands and with vintners and with the industry in general, who may or may, who on a level of 0 cluelessness to 100 perfect digital guru-ness, are probably someplace in between. A clever entrepreneur could bring a solution like this to those places and say, hey, I can help you figure out what people are saying about your wines. As part of the business that I'm in, which is about talking to you about how things are going, I can kind of turn the tables and help you figure out and learn more about what's actually being said about you. That deepens your relationships with the people that you work with on a regular basis, provides you all with a whole bunch more value off the back of it, and realistically, no one else is really going to do it other than them or you. The agency racket's too big to get into that kind of space, but it's certainly really valuable to understand what people would be saying of all those reviews, what people are saying about you in different places. And tools like this make it much, much easier. And frankly, the smaller the company, Radian 6 isn't very big, Brandwatch is really small, the more open they'll be to an approach from someone who says, hey, I've got this really great idea. I'd love you to kind of, can you shift your lens and focus a little bit on the wine business with me and make this thing into a little product that I could bring to my region, my home. I think that would have a remarkable effect. And on whatever scale that it would be, either kind of wide scale across an entire country or across an entire region, or even just in terms of one town or one vintner that you need to have or want to have a deeper relationship with. And plus, it probably make a little bit of money off the back of it. So that was pretty much it. I thought, listen to what's being said, learn from what's being said that's out there, and plan as a result. Get involved in those conversations and monitor. And it's this last piece, this monitor and adjust, that I think far too few people pay any attention to. They just kind of get off and do their thing, and they think that's what they know best, that's what they're great at, that's what they love doing, but they don't necessarily pay enough attention to how they could monitor and adjust what it is that they write or read or interact with or create on a regular basis to make it more interesting and appealing to the broader public. It takes some time as well, so don't expect it to happen overnight. Data takes time to accrue. Results take time to have meaning, so the sooner you get on with it, the more interesting it will be over the long term. That was it. That was what I had from a formal perspective, but we've got some time left, so I was thinking maybe if there's, first of all, some questions, or I'd also love to know if anybody here is already doing anything like this. Yeah.
George, I was just going to say the points you made, I think, are really valuable for the wine sector. And the wine sector really wants to get into this stuff. They seem to lack they lack the knowledge of how to get started. I think the first thing, particularly in a country like France where I work, you've got vignerons who are interested in learning about how this works and how they can monitor things, but then they feel they lack the capacity to sort of make changes. How do they, where do they go once they pick up the information and go, right, this is what people are saying about our brand, how do we actually implement that into our communication strategy?
It's a good question. I think that it's walking before running, I guess, and it's simply kind of saying, of that stuff that we've learned, what do we think is the most important item? Instead of making a big top 10 list and trying to completely revamp the company or the business or the way we do everything, right? It's kind of figuring out that one thing. Now, I'm a big fan of quick wins. In any new situation, in any new business relationship, and in any kind of when it's possible, to pick off one thing that you think would make a difference, and then use that as a bit of a proving ground to be able to do more of the same as time goes on. So you've done some monitoring, you've listened to what's being said that's out there, you've kind of heard what the people have to say and how they're reacting. And there's one piece of feedback that seems as though it's a little bit more prevalent than the rest, or more doable even than some of the other stuff. And you think that would make a difference. I would do that first. I mean, it's just kind of a question of prioritizing. I think the other thing to, in that case, the point you could make is that I think older, more established, I will not use the word stodgy because I don't consider them stodgy, but kind of the more established brands that are out there will have more trouble doing it because they're kind of set. But younger, more entrepreneurial folks, I met with a great couple, a brand called Mischief and Mayhem in Aloche-Corton in Burgundy. Brilliant pair. They were a pair of English folk, and they're great, and they're definitely breaking with tradition, definitely breaking with the mold. And it's though you know that they'd be up for it. You know that they would be very keen on it. So I think you're just kind of picking and choosing where to strike. Any other question? Is anybody here doing anything like this? How many people here are bloggers or people who write? So how many times, raise your hands if once every, more than once a month, you look at your stats and the readership of your blog itself. So, okay, decent percentage. How many of you look at where things are being mentioned elsewhere? Fraction. So that's the thing. That is the crux. It is the if it were, it's the mountain in Muhammad, right? It's like everyone thinks they're coming to you, but how many times are people taking what you've done or written or said or thought and taking it elsewhere? And by looking, for example, at where it goes, you might find yourself with the opportunity to go approach someplace where it goes consistently and go, hey, you guys seem to like what it is that I do. Maybe I can put together this kind of content package for you. Maybe I can put together this kind of program. Maybe there's something we could do together because obviously we've got a lot in common. Our readers or yourself or whoever it is obviously building a bit of a bridge between what I'm doing here and what you're doing there. And the only reason why you're going to find that out is to monitor it and find it out. And like I said, luckily, there are more and more tools that are not very costly actually that will help you do that. Well, I kind of hinted.
Where do you start? I mean, rather than just Googling monitoring.
Yeah, of course. I think it's like I said in the beginning, it's a little bit it's horses for courses, as they like to say in England. It depends on the situation and the business, because, you know, like I said, Nielsen Buzzmetrics, they do a good job. They're grand. They cost a fortune. For smaller micro publishers, like I said, and it's only from personal experience. So I'm not making the case that the others aren't worth their salt. But I know Giles over at Brandwatch. He's the guy who started that company. They're English. They're in the UK. That's these guys. They're called Brandwatch. They're very good. We've also used Radian 6 quite a bit. They're an American company. They're a bit more venture-backed, a bit more established in the marketplace. It's Canadian. Sorry. Oops. My bad. But they're very good. So I would definitely check them out. Those are two good places to start.
So it seems like paying someone else to do it on your behalf, or am I getting it wrong?
Say again?
That seems, the companies that you're recommending seem like...
They have a wide variety of solutions where you can have them do it for you. You can purchase the service and use their own dashboards so that you're doing it, but you're just using their software as a service, for example. Nielsen Buzzmetrics does the whole lot of saying they actually build server farms and will gather the data, let alone will they interpret it and spit it back to you in marvelous PowerPoint presentations and all the rest. So it really is kind of a wide range. And all of these companies kind of run the gamut of from one to the other. Radian does a little bit more analysis from what if I'm not mistaken, but they all have a base solution that allows you to do it yourself. And most of them will even give you a free trial. At least the smaller ones will. So you can do it for 30 days to at least see how it goes. And they're pretty good about answering email and talking to you about what it is you're trying to find.
What about Google Analytics? Is that just for websites?
It's growing. They're obviously expanding, and but it definitely it's certainly more effective for individual websites and URLs, and not as good at getting into other places. So Facebook mentions and tweets and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more difficult for them to handle at the moment, as far as I know. Well, thank you very much.